Oh hey! Didn't see you there. Hope I didn't spook you. Just kidding. I hope you shit yourself. So if you couldn't tell by what I'm wearing, I have something very, very important to talk about today. And no, I am not wearing a Talladega NASCAR outfit. I swear to God, I was at a Halloween party, and the second I walked in, the host was like, "Oh my God, are you a race car driver?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And then I died inside a little bit and continued to show people on Google Images what Leon Scott Kennedy looks like. And yes, we are here to talk about Resident Evil, only one of the greatest video game franchises of all time, and my personal favorite. Something I obsessed over since I was in preschool. I used to draw the most morbid, horrible shit in my kindergarten class, and then the teacher would call and show my mom, and she'd be like, "Oh boy," and then she'd get mad because my dad would let me play all these horrible graphic games. And you know what? I think I turned out fine. I'm fine. There's nothing wrong with me. Anyways, there's a lot to go through here. Resident Evil started all the way back in 1997, I think, or 96. Yep, the year I was born. Go figure. So there's a lot of history, a lot of ground to cover. I've played pretty much every single game on console, with the exception, obviously, of the ones that weren't released here. I had to play through emulator. But spoiler alert, the ones that didn't come out here are pretty much universally considered certified ass, and no, not the good kind of ass, unfortunately. So yeah, I think we're kind of just gonna go through each one. The ones that I really love, I would like to review, like for real. But this video is basically my excuse to just go through every single one, and do like a miniature review, and I can go back and do them in depth later. But for now, I kind of just want to knock some of these out because, if y'all didn't know, as of me recording this right now, it is about a month away until the new live-action Resident Evil, and my thoughts on it so far, it's okay. It looks okay. It's not. I'm not crying about it. There's some shit I recognize cool. From what I can tell in the trailers, it looks like they're at least kind of trying to do, like, you know, the games. Everyone's complaining because, you know, Leon is brown and fucking Jill's black, and I'm like, that is the least of this movie's possible problems. I think all the actors will probably do fine if the material's good enough. And looking at the director's IMDb page, I think he did like straight to DVD shark movies. And some of the CG honestly looks worse than the games. I think literally just a few seconds ago I said it looked fine, and then as I continue to talk about it, I realized probably not fine. But either way, I'll be there in theaters. I will see it. I will review it. It'll be great. It'll be fun. God knows Mila Jovovich needs a rest. Her husband put her to work. So here we got all the games at the bottom. Good shit. As you can see, the tier list, I'm not going with the normal shit. The alphabet is not enough to cover Resident Evil. I gotta put in all the memes. If you don't have meme tiers, then it's not a real tier list. Is this medium dead yet? I don't know. I don't know. So for S tier, we got Stranger. Now that's a weapon. That's good shit.
That's a weapon.
For A tier, we got I'll buy it at a high price. Hell yeah, I pretty much bought all these at a high price, even the shitty ones, but whatever, good meme.
Thank you.
For B tier, we got really powerful, especially against living things. And then for C tier, we got almost a Jill sandwich. Almost there, not quite.
That was too close. You were almost a Jill sandwich.
You're right.
D tier, we got no thanks, bro.
No thanks,
I don't
bro.
hate these games, but I just really don't care for them. And then lastly, not enough cash.
Not enough cash,
Fuck this shit. This shit's
stranger.
bad. Enough said. For those of you who didn't know, Resident Evil was originally called, in Japan, Biohazard. And you have to say it like that. You can't say Biohazard. You have to say Biohazard, because that's the only way you can say it. Because the announcers for these games were fucking bananas. And I love them. And honestly, I miss them. The new games don't really have those stupid announcers.
Resident Evil. Resident Evil. Resident Evil. Resident Evil.
Resident Evil.
Resident Evil. Resident Evil.
Jill sandwich.
Barry, why on earth are you here?
Anyways, I'm getting off track. I'm off my meds. Okay. So we gotta start with the original. Good old Resident Evil 1. PlayStation 1, baby. Now, funny enough, the first Resident Evil I played was not the original. I didn't actually play the original until a little bit later. I think I was like in 5th grade. God. Yeah, so I started playing Resident Evil in preschool, if I didn't make that clear earlier. This game, because it's like the grandfather, you would assume, oh, easy, S tier, or, you know, A tier. Whew, okay, I just kind of gave it away there. It doesn't hold up very well. I love fixed camera angles. I love pre-rendered backgrounds. I love this game. This is a beautiful game. I would easily put this in probably in my top. Damn, I have to stop myself. I like this game a lot, okay? But even with all the memes, all the voice acting, the game at the end of the day for most people is going to be a novelty. I've played through both character and scenarios. I've gotten a good chunk of the endings. I love it. I love coming back to it. I would love to see a HD remastered release, not a remake, because duh, there was a remake. I'm talking about like a good HD high-res, like, you know, upscaled version for consoles, you know, a port is what I'm saying. I would play the shit out of it. I would love it, but I hate to do this. You know, I love the lines. I mean, half my tier list is literally named from this game's lines, but God, it's gonna pay me to do this. It's really powerful, especially against living things. So that's gonna be a B tier. I think that's fair. It's a good middle ground. I don't think anyone's gonna be coming to my house with pitchforks over that one. Now this is the shit, boy. Ooh, Resident Evil 2. So this was the first one I ever played. I very clearly remember that opening cutscene with the truck driver like, oh, why'd you bite me? Like,
Guy's a maniac. Why'd he bite me?
it's good shit. It's the greatest ever. It took everything that was great about that first game, dialed it up to 11. The story was superior. I mean, I'm literally wearing the exact outfit from Resident Evil 2. It's just classic. I mean, you got your two main characters are super likable. And even though they're still like, you know, generic action hero characters, I still think they're way better than Jill and Chris were in that first game. The cutscenes were like super iconic. The liquor on the ceiling, I mean, it's just everything about it. I'm so in love with. Not to mention, very importantly, my waifu, Ada Wong. That's her debut. Come on. So yeah, Resident Evil 2, that's an easy S tier. Sure, fixed camera angles and all that shit may not stand up today, but it's such a staple of the genre, honestly. Out of the, you know, old school survival horror games, this is right up there with like Silent Hill 2. Easily. Alrighty, so boy, Nemesis. That was the second Resident Evil game I ever played. And honestly, if you asked me when I was in kindergarten, hey, what's your favorite video game? I might have actually said Resident Evil 3 for two big reasons. Number one, Jill Valentine. Oh my god, dude. The the blue tube top, come on, like that is so iconic. It's completely stupid. You would literally get scratched to shit on the concrete, let alone get eaten by zombies. But Jill is just such a badass in that game. Just one of the most like recognizable looks. And then the second reason was the reason why I would literally cry myself to sleep at night and why I would check my closet before I went to sleep. And that's Nemesis. Nemesis is easily the best pursuer character in the franchise, even if it's not on a technical level the best. As far as just iconography and memorability, Nemesis was just so intimidating, so scary. That the score was great. However, looking back at this game without the nostalgia goggles on, it really was basically Resident Evil 2, the expansion pack. Not much of a story there. I mean, you could argue Resident Evil 2 didn't have like the most grand story ever, but even then, Resident Evil 3 definitely was just kind of like a little side story. You can kind of skip it, and it doesn't really change much other than the fact that you see Raccoon City get blown up. It's a little easier than the second game, which isn't inherently a bad thing, but there's just a lot of things about it that just don't hold up quite as well. I still love it to death, and I think it's an awesome game. It's worth playing. Definitely still way better than the first game. However, it's just not quite there. It's a classic, and as far as a game that was rushed out into development, you know, in such a short time span, they did a great job. But I'll buy it at a high price. I'll give it an A.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
Up next is, oh, this is a weird one, Resident Evil Survivor. So I played this around the same time. I remember renting it from Blockbuster Video whenever it came out. And in hindsight, now as an adult, I realize it's just reused assets, the game. You know, it's just basically they just got the shit from whatever they had and just plopped it in the game, put it in first-person shooter. The first-person aspect is fascinating. It's just weird to look at it. You know, even though it's technically a light gun game, I can't help but think of like Quake and like Unreal and like all the games that were coming out. The Alien trilogy, first-person shooter, just all that stuff that came out around that time on console. So it's a neat little novelty, but honestly, it's kind of ass. The story is even weirder and worse than, you know, the other games in the series at the time, which is saying a lot. So I definitely am gonna have to. No thanks, bro. No thanks, bro. That's a D tier. It's just it's neat to look at and just from a historical context, like, oh, that's kind of cool. But it's not really a good game, and there's really no other reason to play it unless you're just genuinely obsessed with Resident Evil.
Bruh, look at this dude. Wait till you see the.
Up next. Oh, shit. All right. I gotta be brave. I gotta be honest. I can't play around here. I can't lie to y'all. Resident Evil Code Veronica is an amazing game. It is. It's wonderful. It really is the true sequel to Resident Evil 2, narratively speaking, and even honestly mechanically speaking. The fully rendered in-game, you know, backgrounds with the dynamic camera. It was so unique, and it's a shame we didn't get more games like it. However, even with, you know, those additions, story-wise, for whatever reason, the Ashford twins, even though that, you know, the cutscenes are iconic, you know, the imagery is iconic, they just never. For some reason, I always found that story so stupid. And I know. Okay, don't kill me. I know every Resident Evil story is stupid, and some of the ones I'm going to be putting in higher tiers have stupid stories. That's a Resident Evil staple. But I don't know why it just didn't hit for me. Like, I remember playing it when I was younger and being interested, but it just, I don't know. I think the pacing, that's what it really is. The pacing is just really off for me. And not that the other games were fast-paced. You know, there's a good middle ground between exploration, etc. But for whatever reason, it's hard to pin down. But the game always just seemed kind of goofy. It wasn't as creepy as the Raccoon City stuff. Wasn't as, honestly, as memorable as some of the mansion stuff. The tyrant battle on the plane is a bitch and a half. I mean, that's no secret. Everyone knows that. So, God. I'm gonna give it a B tier. It's a fun game. It's a great playthrough. As far as I'm concerned, it is a mainline game. It really should be numbered. If they switched, you know, 3 with Code Veronica and they called Resident Evil 3 just Last Escape and called Resident Evil Code Veronica Resident Evil 3, I would never argue with that. I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. Doesn't mean I love it. And sorry, but I enjoyed Resident Evil 3 more than I did Code Veronica. Even though Code Veronica on a technical level might actually be a better game. Whew, all right, got that off my chest. Jeez, now it's really scary. This is a really scary video. Oh man. So next, Oh shit, we got a shit tier. Well, spoilers, shit tier game. So this technically never came out in the United States. It's Resident Evil Gun Survivor 2. It was originally an arcade game, I think. Funny enough, this is literally just Code Veronica as a first-person, light gun game. I've never actually, now because it only came out in Japan and I do not have a Japanese PS2, I played an emulated version of this on PC, a little while back. I feel kind of similar about it. I do to the first one. It's a novelty. It's like, oh, cool, this is neat. But it doesn't really play very well, and there's a reason why it never came over here. Sorry, yeah, that's an easy. That's an easy no thanks, bro. It doesn't piss me off. I'm not like, God, why does this exist? But it's not really fun. Outside again of just the visual novelty of it. Up next, now this one might be the weirdest one on the entire list because I actually did play this because I saw the cover in stores and I just got so excited. So this is Resident Evil Gaiden, or Gaiden. Well, I guess technically it's Gaiden. This is the first game that you get to play Barry. That's right. It wasn't Revelations 2. This game opens with you playing Barry on a boat. So not only is Revelations 1 not the first game set on a boat, but Revelations 2 is not the first game set Barry. This game takes place on a boat and you play Barry. Not that you could fucking tell because it's like, the shittiest Game Boy Color graphics. But I will say the theme song for this game oddly slaps. It's like a weird Game Boy knockoff of the Exorcist theme. And I remember when I was little, booting up that menu screen and hearing that little zombie like crackle, like it actually spooked me. And I used to play this all the time. It sucks. It's really hard. It sucks. The whole game, it's almost like I don't even know how to describe it. It's almost like a rhythm game, but not really, because every time you get into an encounter, it goes into a first-person like RPG. Like almost like Earthbound looking like screen, and then there's like a little slider that just goes back and forth on the bottom, and you have to hit it. It's like a quick time event, the game on Game Boy. I did not get very far in it because it honestly was actually pretty hard because again it's literally just non-stop quick time events. It drove me insane. It's cute. If you have a Game Boy Color and you love Resident Evil, well, I mean, I'm not gonna stop you. But it's outside of that, no. No thanks, bro. Sorry. I had good memories from it, but I'm not really looking to pick up a copy. All right, now this is what I'm talking about. We're finally entering the early 2000s. This, in my opinion, is the quintessential Resident Evil experience. This is the creme of the crop, greatest Resident Evil thing ever, and that's Resident Evil Remake. I strongly stand by that. This here is a textbook definition for me of a remake. People always confuse remake and remaster. So remaster, not to just go on a complete tangent, but remaster is when you get that original print of film, and in this case we're talking about game, so the original source, and you can, upscale it and maybe tweak a tiny little things, but for the most part it's basically a glossy port, which is fine, which is great. Remasters are awesome. All the Resident Evil 4 releases, those are all remasters, they're not remakes. So Resident Evil Remake, it's literally, if you booted it up on the GameCube and then you booted it up on PlayStation 1, play them side by side, it is almost like a mirror image, but that other mirror is so much prettier. And then all the things that kind of sucked about it, like, not being able to turn around really quick, just little tiny things like that, they really just trimmed it up and made it so much more responsive. Granted, we're talking for 2000 and what is it? 2002 standards. Okay. Maybe not by today's standards, but the atmosphere is so just, dude, you feel it in your bones when you play this game. The music is on point. All the bosses are there. All the enemies are there. The Crimson Heads are one of the scariest enemies in any Resident Evil for sure. It's such a genius idea. Lisa Trevor. Lisa Trevor, honestly, I'm going to say it, I'm going to be brave. Lisa Trevor is a more compelling and interesting boss battle than Tyrant ever was. Tyrant is cool, but Tyrant's basically big zombie, big hand. And then he just kind of goes... It's cool. Lisa Trevor, the second you go up to that gate and hear her screaming and crying, like all chained up and shit, that sends shivers down my spine every time. Probably the most underrated Resident Evil character, like, ever, honestly. The opening cutscene of Joseph getting eaten in the original was hilarious. In this version, it's, like, oddly depressing and kind of off-putting. I remember even playing it as a kid, and just being really upset watching this guy get eaten alive. Like, it's just horrifying, but it still leaves in all those cute, cheesy little moments that you remember. And it's just, to me, it's God tier. It's honestly, it is the definition of an S tier Resident Evil experience. It doesn't really get better than that. Not to put down anything that comes up after this, because there's a lot of other things I absolutely love, but Resident Evil, by far, the original GameCube version, is probably my favorite game ever made. So yeah, S tier, easy. Easy. It's one of the few times a remake straight up just slam dunks and replaces the original.
Barry.
That was a close one. A second late, you would have fit nicely into a
Jill sandwich.
Okay, so I kind of ripped off a Band-Aid with Resident Evil Code Veronica. I'm about to rip off yet another Band-Aid. This one not quite as sticky, but still. Resident Evil 0. Okay, so when it comes to prequels, for me, the thing that a prequel should do is explain the events leading into the thing that it's preceding, or at the very least present its own unique original thing, using some elements from that first thing. This game kind of doesn't really do either for me, narratively speaking. I mean, yes, they do explain the T-virus. They explain, they show a little bit of Wesker and Birkin, and all that good jazz, but when you keep finding the bodies of, like, Forrest or Kenneth or, like, all the other STARS members throughout the mansion, when I played Resident Evil 0, I kind of expected to see, like, more of that. It's being set on the train, at the start, it was a really great open. But something about it almost kind of felt that same level of silly as Code Veronica. Which is saying a lot, because there's a giant snake and a giant shark in Resident Evil 1. So I'm not, I know how stupid this sounds. I'm trying to find a way to word it. Because this isn't scripted. I'm just kind of throwing out my feelings here. Billy Cohen is kind of a boring character to me. Rebecca Chambers, it just isn't as compelling or interesting or unique as Claire or Jill, in my opinion. I will say, however, this is gorgeous. This game, Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil Remake, honestly, both, in my opinion, are like the best looking games in the series. Not on a technical level, but on an artistic level. It doesn't really get better than those pre-rendered GameCube backgrounds. It's just something's just so spooky and eerie. And I remember there's a really memorable moment where you're on top of the train, and you just see the trees in the background and, like, the rain, and it just something about it. The atmosphere in this game is awesome for sure. And there's some memorable enemies, like, the monkeys are one, a giant bat, etc. But the whole leech battle thing, I don't know, something about it it's lacking. The switch system between the characters honestly gets super annoying after a while. At the time, it was really unique. I know that's the whole reason it didn't come out on the Nintendo 64 originally, is because they didn't have the technology yet, or they couldn't fit all that memory. But even with all of that, it just doesn't really hit. It just barely misses. Oh man. Do I really want to... I am right now in my head debating whether or not this is going to be a C tier or B tier. And this is going to hurt a lot of people. Oh, man. Fuck it. I don't have anything in C tier yet. And honestly,
You're almost a Jill sandwich.
yeah, this isn't. I revisit this even less than I revisit Code Veronica or Resident Evil 1, and that's saying a lot. So it's almost a Jill sandwich. I know it's gonna hurt a lot of people because I know a lot of people love Zero, just like they love Code Veronica. And I will say in some aspects it's underrated, but honestly, it's not nearly as good as Code Veronica or Resident Evil 3 or Resident Evil 1 remake or Resident Evil 2. So. It's got it. I'm sorry. It's got to go there. Almost a Jill sandwich. Sorry, guys.
Come on. Looking at that stuff, man.
All right, next we got another spinoff, Resident Evil Dead Aim. This one I remember being really excited for because I really liked the cover whenever I saw it in the store back in the day. It's I forgot the name of the artist, but he did a lot of the Street Fighter art. And he did the art for the Resident Evil DS, the Umbrella Chronicles, like cutscenes. Like it's just really badass cover. And I gotta say, this has probably one of the most unorthodox and cool sounding save themes. The save theme for this is like this really cool, like synthwave kind of like slow synth, moody like theme, and it's really cool. However, it's kind of tough to play, and to be honest with you, I've always had a bias towards some first-person stuff, especially if it's really dark, because it just gives me the worst motion sickness ever. Not to say, I mean, I play a lot of first-person shooters, but this like weird first-person walking hybrid light gun con game just didn't quite hit for me. Definitely significantly better than Resident Evil Survivor, without a doubt. It has a really badass ending theme too. But yeah, it's can't forget, it's also the first Resident Evil 3D game on a boat. I almost literally contradicted what I said earlier. Resident Evil Gaiden, first on the boat. Resident Evil Dead Aim, second on the boat. And then Resident Evil Revelations, third on a boat. I don't know why all these games on boats, but hey man, Resident Evil boats go together, I guess. So I'm going to put this as almost a Jill sandwich. C tier. Actually, ooh, yikes. That sitting next to Resident Evil 0 doesn't sit well with me. Damn. Fuck it. It's too late. It's already in there. Sorry, guys. It's in there. Man, that's crazy. Sorry.
Hey, yo, what the fuck?
All right, here we go. Now we're talking again. Resident Evil Outbreak. Best Resident Evil spinoffs ever? Question mark. Looking at this, honestly, maybe. And I'm not counting Code Veronica as a spinoff. Remember that. Man, it should be like the greatest Resident Evil gaming experience ever, but it's just not quite. And the reason being is those god forbidden load screens. I bought this again recently because I remember playing when I was younger and having a lot of fun with it, but I bought it again recently. It was really cheap. Threw that sucker in there. God damn. Woo! Those load screens, though, man. I'm talking, you would literally be chased by a zombie, open the door to like a bathroom stall, and then it would be like, bum, 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 like that heartbeat, bum, 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 bum. And then before you know it, bum, 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 bum. And you look down at your watch, and then finally you enter the next room, and then there's another zombie about to bite you, and you're like, oh shit, turn around, loading screen, bum, bum. It is an absolute nightmare. Playing this game in the modern day is absolute hell. Not to mention, if you did play online back in the day, there was no voice chat. There was no way to communicate. So you have to run around and find shit together, do classic, fixed camera angle Resident Evil puzzles. And the idea of a co-op Resident Evil classic survival horror, honestly, is like, it should be a wet dream. It's like, oh my god, awesome, epic. And then you actually play it, and it's like, oh, this sucks. Now we're talking about today. Now back in the day, I'm sure it wasn't as noticeable. That was games weren't really what they are today. Now, if you do play this, however, on an emulator on PC, those problems are fixed. You can enjoy, higher res, looks at those beautiful Racoon City and RPD recreations. You can do voice chat, which is a godsend. You know, I'm running the grab herbs, you know, this and that. You can, what's it called? Skip those disgusting load screens. It really is a totally different experience. And as you can see on the screen, I combined both of them together, Outbreak File 1 and File 2, because it's literally, the second game is just an expansion. They really went all out with the zoo, and just all the different crazy shit in there. So it's hard to judge. If I had to judge this based on the original PS2 version, like playing it on hardware, that it would easily be almost a Jill sandwich. But if we're judging it by the emulators and like playing it on PC today, it's really powerful, especially against living things. So it's kind of tough. But just because I love the concept so much, and I love the environments, easily the best looking Resident Evil 3D fixed camera. I think it really did step up just a little bit from Code Veronica aesthetically. So I'm definitely going to put it right next to it. So really powerful, especially against living things. All right, what we got next? Ooh, boy. Okay. I just gave it away. Sorry. Resident Evil 4. All right. I know this is the most divisive game in the series, but there's a wonderful reason why that is. It just changed everything. Should this game have been copied over and over and over and over? No. I mean, this game ran so Elder Scrolls could sprint. Like, this thing has been re-released so many times. Even Shinji Mikami literally said, like, I will die before this game ever leaves GameCube. And literally, like, I think it was like 6 months later, I got a PS2 release, then got a Wii release, PC release. I mean, you could play Resident Evil 4 on literally anything. The cheesy ass lines in this game are probably the most iconic outside of that original game.
I have absolute control.
Well, I really don't give a damn. Rain or shine, you're going down.
I mean, no thanks, bro. I mean, pretty much my entire list is based off of the merchant. I mean, come on. The gameplay is so fast and responsive. I think, honestly, even though Resident Evil 1 is my favorite game and favorite Resident Evil, I've probably played through Resident Evil 4 more times than any of the other games, and maybe even more times than any game in general. God, yeah, probably. It's hard to beat. I get why people are butthurt about it. Like, I think there is a valid reason. It's sold so well, and it literally, to this very day, third-person cameras from, you know, the newest God of War to The Last of Us to, I mean, even games that aren't even remotely about shooting things, uses the over-the-shoulder perspective. I mean, it revolutionized games forever, and is considered a classic up there with Final Fantasy VII and Mario 64 and Ocarina of Time. And I totally understand why. So if you if you hate what it did to the series, I can't blame you. But man, even if you judge it as a game on its own, even outside of the Resident Evil context, it's just brilliant. There's a few little things here that definitely date it. I mean, the fact that you can't move while shooting and stuff like that. But to me, the quick running, stopping, turning around, shooting, and just that there's something so satisfying about it. And the OCD, the absolute OCD orgasm you have when you organize your suitcase. I mean, nothing compares. I am hydrated and flourishing and in my zone when I am moving shit around inside that suitcase. S tier all the way. And right here you'll see I cheated. I put the Wii edition. That's my personal favorite. Pointing and clicking and shooting and like waving the remote to break shit. Man, that is like, God fucking, it's like the first game was the biggest nut ever. The Wii edition is that same nut on ecstasy, dude. Fuck, S tier. I know it's cheating putting two of the same game, but come on, I'm just entertaining myself at this point. I'm sorry.
Hang on, sweetheart.
I decided to skip Resident Evil DS because it's literally just a port of the original Resident Evil. It plays exactly the same, minus some touchscreen stuff, and yeah, it's the same game. So yeah, I skipped it. Ah, here we go. A light gun game that's actually worth shit. We got Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles. This game is fun. It's fun. It's reused assets from the GameCube stuff. It, excuse me, it covers the first Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 3, and then I think it covers like just a bunch of other like lore and like side stuff that you never really got to see in the other games. It was fun. This is a great co-op game. It's just fun, you know, House of the Dead knockoff type Resident Evil stuff. It's harmless. I would give this a B tier. Really powerful, especially against living things. And then we had the sequel, Resident Evil Darkside Chronicles. I'm kind of skipping ahead, but I just want to get them both out of the way. Darkside Chronicles is basically that game just done better. So it has Resident Evil 2 and Code Veronica covered, and then also too, there's a really cool prequel mission that takes place before Resident Evil 4, showing Krauser and Leon's kind of partnership developing. And honestly, that portion was so cool. I almost wish it was its own game, because it was set in I can't remember, set somewhere in Central America or South America, and you're running through, and Leon's kind of just first getting into his government work. You're fighting zombies in this village, and it's really cool, and you have like kind of like a weird cartel type story. I thought it was really neat, and the best part about this game for me is that you finally get to see, at least at this point, you finally got to see Resident Evil 2 kind of remade for the first time. So it's Resident Evil 2, but using the aesthetic and graphics of Resident Evil 1 remake and Resident Evil 4. So you get to see Leon and Claire like look how they would if they did make a remake on GameCube. And you could see those environments recreated so faithfully, just like they did in Outbreak 1 and 2. So that alone, for me, makes it worth a play, and especially since they ported it. I believe they ported it to PlayStation 4, and I think they had it on the 360, PS3 as well. So definitely worth playing. And so even though it's better, I'm just gonna put it next to there. It's definitely not A tier. Still B tier, but really powerful, especially against living things. All right, here we go. Now this is another controversial one. Resident Evil 5, or some people like to call it Resident Evil 4 Part 2. This game I kind of flip-flop on, because I remember when the first trailer came out, I was so excited. I'd never been hyped for anything more in my life. Like, it just, oh my god. Like, one, the setting is so unique. I know there was controversy about it, obviously, especially out of context. It's really fucking concerning. But the story just seems so intriguing, and the enemies seem so much more intense. The AI seems so much, more, just aggressive than it was in 4, when you're dealing with the villagers. It just looked really cool. The soundtrack seemed like it was going to be cool. They had all these cool concepts. I remember reading about it in Game Informer back when they actually printed that shit. I remember reading about how they were going to have, like, heat stroke. So, like, if you didn't drink enough water, or if you didn't stay in shade enough and you were in the sun, like, you start hallucinating enemies, like, all this cool stuff. And then the game finally comes out, and, like, none of that shit's in there. And so I remember just being like, where'd all that cool shit go? And then, of course, it was the first one with co-op, because Call of Duty, I think Modern Warfare 2 had just come out recently. And that, obviously was, like, the king of video games for, like, ever. Until Black Ops came out. Like, it just dominated the market. And so they definitely upped the combat, and then having a partner with you the whole time, whether or not it was for racial reasons, or whether or not it was for, like I said, the Modern Warfare, just action game reason, having a partner in a Resident Evil game definitely kills the suspense. If it's an AI, it's annoying because you have to keep it up. And if you're with a friend, it's fun, but again, it kind of just feels like you're playing Gears of War. And the story, I actually really like the story. I really like the return of Wesker. I really like the progenitor flower, reveal. That stuff was super cool. But it definitely was a disappointing game when I first played it. And I think upon replaying it again and again with like friends and stuff, I've come to like it more over time. So I kind of went on like a curve there. So for me, it's crazy. I can't believe I'm saying this. Like, it's so fun to play with friends. I almost want to give it an A tier, but I feel like it oh man, I'm stumbling. I'm stuttering. I don't know where to put it. I don't know if I want it. Man, I'm gonna have to give it a B tier. I think that's a respectable level. It's really powerful, especially against living things. It's sitting next to these games here. It seems fair. It's really fun to play. It added a lot of cool lore. It did interesting, fun things with the character, but you know, it just wasn't 100% there.
No! God! No! God, please, no! No!
Fight back! Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!
Okie dokie, so we got that big boulder punching boy out of the way. Now what do we got next? We got, all right, Darkside Chronicles, already did that. Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D. This one's easy. Mercenaries, love it. You gotta love it. I mean, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 5 Mercenaries, okay. That probably is the best Mercenaries, for sure. It definitely had the best roster. Good God, they had like every sexy Halloween costume version of every character you could imagine. So Resident Evil Mercenaries 3D, it just continues that trend. It's a fun little mini game. Sucks that you can only create one save file and not delete it. That's like the weirdest shit ever. It's harmless, great, fun side game, easy, really powerful, especially against living things.
It's really powerful.
Wow, that honestly was probably the easiest one to do. Next, we got Resident Evil Revelations. All right, so I got a bone to pick with everybody here. So Code Veronica and Resident Evil 0, I get it. I get why people like will die on their graves saying it's like one of their favorites. Resident Evil Revelations is like the king of goofy Resident Evil. Like it is. You had like Conan O'Brien was there. you had like this weird plot about a futuristic island that got attacked by like terrorists and like using like solar beam, like solar flare, like satellite technology, and then like, you know, you fight the same stupid looking like foreskin enemy the whole time, and just I don't know, something about Resident Evil Revelations just maybe I was overhyped and I went in with like just way too high of expectations. But the second I got like an hour, 2 hours into the game, I was like, there's something wrong here. I'm not having as good a time as I thought. Now, maybe if I had played it on the 3DS, I might have had a different opinion. Like as a handhold game, I'd be like, yeah, this is pretty cool. But honestly, I don't even think this game deserves to be in the canon. Like the story just is goofy as shit. It's like it's the most G.I. Joe like super villain type plot ever, and that's saying a lot considering it's Resident Evil. The costume and designs, like I know we love our sexy Resident Evil babes, no shit, but like some of the designs in this game are just so off-puttingly goofy and just I don't know, man. I thought Revelations was overrated as hell. The gameplay is honestly not that smooth or not that fun. Like again, on 3DS maybe. I played it on Wii U. Oh my God. That final boss sucks. That like swordfish, like dude, oh my, like teleporting, like why is there a teleporting fish tyrant? Like god damn. Yeah, Revelations, I'm sorry, like I'm not sorry actually. I think it kind of sucks. I mean, it's not a shit game, but it's definitely, people act like, oh no, this is what Resident Evil 4 should have been. I'm like, no, dude. No, it should have not. That is almost a Jill sandwich, C tier. It's fun.
Sandwich.
I enjoyed my time with it, but I could care less to play it again. Sorry, but fuck it. Oh, okay. Ooh, now we're talking. Resident Evil Operation Racoon City, aka we want to replicate the success of Gears of War and Call of Duty. Yeah, Operation Racoon City sucks. That's no secret. Very few people like it. The one thing I can say about it is the cutscenes are kind of cool. It's kind of cool to see, like, you know, the other characters show up, but we already have so much of that. A game of this type should not be this incompetent coming from a studio this large. That's what's so baffling about it. So even though, yes, there's some cool little nods here and there, that is not enough to save this. This, honestly, not enough cash. Not enough cash, Stranger. I don't think people should pay for this game. This should be a free-to-play game. And even then, no one would play it. It was fun to run through once, but the whole time we were just like, man, this sucks, right? Ha! And that's it. That was the experience. Like, cool. This sucks. Yeah, sorry, but you fucked up, Capcom. Oh boy, now this one is the this is the big one. Resident Evil 6, aka Giraffe Blowjob game. Yeah, everyone knows the meme. This game is, again, oddly incompetent in the sense that they tried to please everyone. They were like, oh, we're gonna go back to horror, but we want to keep the action that's been selling really well. And it's like, dude, you can't do both. There were so many moments in this game where I felt like I was a zombie. Like, I was literally just leaning back, just like full neck here. Like, I just didn't give a shit. Like, I just kept like just mowing everything down, doing headlock slams on the ground. I mean, this game honestly almost felt like a Fast and Furious game. Like, it belongs more in the Fast and Furious universe than it does Resident Evil 6. Story was just way too big for its own good. It really wasn't that exciting, regardless of all the shit. Like, seeing Leon and Chris meet, I thought would have been the most epic moment of my life. But when it finally came to the moment in the game, I was just kind of like, that's neat. And I shouldn't feel that way. Yeah, I mean, it's no secret that people hate this game. I actually don't think it's the worst, made game ever, especially compared to other stuff on this list. But, the Mercenaries mode is fun. Some of the boss battles in this are pretty damn memorable, like the Invisible Snake, the stupid transforming, like, dude on the train, like the T-Rex, that's right, the T-Rex dude, like, it's so stupid. So, unlike Operation Raccoon City, this game is so stupid that it's actually kind of fun. So because of that, I'm almost shocked I'm saying this, but if you play it as a straightforward action game and you're playing it online with friends and you're goofing off, you will have fun. It's not a good Resident Evil. It doesn't deserve to be called Resident Evil, but it is a fun game in its own right. God, I think I'm gonna give it a C tier, almost a Jill sandwich. I mean, they had a lot there to work with. Clearly, they were passionate about it. They wanted to please people and put a lot of good Resident Evil shit in there, but they just failed. They missed the mark. It's not as bad as playing Resident Evil Survivor or Gaiden, so no way it's going in D tier. So yeah, almost a Jill sandwich.
Stop it! You're pitiful. This is your savior? You say this failure is your savior?
Okay, Revelations 2. So, you know how I ragged on Revelations 1? And was like, why the fuck do people love this game? Resident Evil Revelations 2, I'm like, why do people hate this game? It's not great. I will say it's a much more welcome return for Barry Burton than Resident Evil Gaiden. And it's very clear that they basically were trying to make a knockoff of Last of Us, and they failed. It's not the most fun game to play 2-player, considering whoever plays second player literally cannot do any combat other than melee, which is a baffling choice on their part. But I actually remember liking this game. My biggest problem actually comes with the aesthetics. It's a fine looking game graphically. However, artistically, it kind of felt like a gameplay knockoff of Last of Us, but then a stylistic knockoff of Evil Within and Silent Hill. Like, it did not look like Resident Evil. Barry Burton's missions were honestly my own, favorites. His daughter, I forgot her name. She was annoying as hell. And the dialogue in this was kind of cringy, even for a Resident Evil game. But just, I don't know, all the monsters with metal twisted in them and stuff. It just never once did I think, oh yeah, these are bioweapons. Yeah, this is Resident Evil. This is Biohazard. No, it just felt like a weird. It almost felt like a fan made game, if that makes any sense. There's that one. I'll put it up on the screen. There's that one Resident Evil knockoff. I can't remember the name of it, but it kind of felt like that. It's like, this isn't quite Resident Evil. But I still, honestly, I think combat-wise and just game-wise, I still had more fun playing it than Revelations 1, funny enough. Maybe I just have a problem with boats. That might be it. I might be biased against boats. So I'm actually going to give this a... right next to Revelations and 6, I guess. Almost a Jill sandwich. It's not quite good enough to put up in a B tier, but it's also not bad enough to give a D. So what do we got next? We got
enough cash.
Yeah, Umbrella Corps, dude. Not enough cash. Wait, I'm not even gonna like go on a rant. The only thing I can say, yeah, it was kind of cool seeing first person Resident Evil 4, but now that we have Resident Evil VR, that's out of the question. Yeah, fucking not enough cash. Fuck, this game is doo-doo dog shit. It is the definition of doo-doo dog shit. Next, here we go. Resident Evil 7. Resident Evil 7, man, this is another divisive one. A lot like Resident Evil 4, actually. It's like George Lucas said. It's like they're like poems. They rhyme. Each stanza rhymes with the next.
Again, it's like poetry. So if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one. Hopefully, it'll work.
It's kind of how I felt with this. So if Resident Evil 1 through 3 was fixed camera, and Resident Evil 4 through 6 was over the shoulder, well, 7 through 9, this is the era of first person. When the trailer first dropped, I remember being pissed. I was like, oh, great. So we're getting like a stupid Amnesia, like Outlast, first person, knockoff. I was like, I don't even know if this is really bioweapons. Like, this kind of looked like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, crazy people. I just remember being kind of off-put. But the one thing that did catch my attention and that I thought was genius, even if I didn't like that first trailer, was the fact that they set it in Louisiana. So I'm from the South. I'm from Texas specifically, but I used to go all the way, from Texas to Florida. I used to go through the states. I remember as a little kid, and even just in the car ride, Louisiana scared the shit out of me. Like, I don't know what it is about the bayou and it's just about the woods in general. It's just very creepy, and like there's a lot of old trailers out there, and just a whole lot of nothing outside of the Creole, nice food town part. And it just something about alligators just bobbing at the top of the water. And just all that stuff, I just thought, oh wow, that's genius. What a cool place to set it in. And then as they revealed all those classic Resident Evil tropes, the puzzles, the mansion type setting, zombie enemies, the combat there, the resource conservation. Instead of a typewriter, you had a tape recorder. All these things, I was like, oh, I see what they're doing. And even though I was like, I don't know about first person, we'll see. And when I finally played that game, it blew me away. I was like, wow, I ate my own words. I was like, damn, they did it. And by the end of the game, you see how it all ties together with the original lore, with the bioweapons and all that stuff. I thought the story was awesome. The only thing I can say is that the disappointing thing, which is what everyone brings up, is the lack of variety in enemies. A lot of people seem to think, oh, it's because the molded suck. No, the molded are actually, I thought they were pretty scary. Like the way they come out of the walls, especially if you played that game on a really nice TV that had good HDR, and you turned out all the lights and turned up your subwoofer or your put on your headphones. It was scary. Jack, outside of Mr. X and Nemesis, I actually think Jack might be the scariest pursuer enemy. Just the way he came through that door, you all know that moment. That's up there with the dog jumping through the window. That is the scariest shit.
Surprise, motherfucker.
The characters, everything is so fun, seeing their different abilities. It was a huge missed opportunity that they didn't put alligators in there. I know they put them in the DLC of that one Baker expansion, but that doesn't count. I mean, you punch them with a giant fist, for God's sakes, in that mission. Alligators infected with the mold should have been in the main game. They were originally going to have a family dog. That would have been great. That would have been another great enemy. Like the dog stalks you around the yard. There's so many other like enemies, like spiders or God, I don't know, like crows. I mean, just classic Resident Evil stuff they could have put in that game. But I do love the combat. I love the story. And even though, yeah, it could have been something more, what's there is really good. God, yeah, I'm gonna have to. Wow, I'm really doing this. I'm really doing this. This is an A tier. I'll buy it at a high price.
At a high price.
I'm not sorry. I think it's a great game. I think it really did return Resident Evil to its roots. So yeah, I'll buy it at a high price. And I did. I paid full price for it.
I'm Redfield.
Okay, what do we got next? Oh. This is a big one. I know I've said that multiple times, but I'm going to say it again. This is a big one. Resident Evil 2. I think it's the most anticipated game. Maybe one of the most anticipated anything of my whole life. Ever since Resident Evil 1 Remake on GameCube, it was always assumed, all right, we're doing 2 and 3 next. Never happened. Shinji Mikami, you know, saw how bad the sales did for Remake 1, and it was decided we're not going to do the rest. We're just going to move on, and we're going to change the gameplay style, and that sucks because every day I wish that there was a Resident Evil 2 Remake on GameCube. But it never happened, and, you know, I think I will say I do have a bias. I do prefer, even though I have Resident Evil 4 in S tier, I still prefer the fixed camera, classic Resident Evil style. I dare I say, I actually still really like pre-rendered backgrounds. I had all these expectations for what it was gonna be, and when that first trailer came out, it was like I couldn't believe it. I was like, oh yes, finally. But then I remember just how picky I started getting once I saw the little details. I mean, clearly, I'm wearing, literally, again, showing it off, wearing the original classic PS1 outfit for a reason. There's a reason why I'm not wearing the remake one. They did so many things right, but then there's so many other things that they just straight up left on the cutting room floor. Now, is it silly to expect a modern day game on modern gaming software, or sorry, modern gaming hardware to be a fixed camera, you know, slow ass, you know, can't even see where you're aiming type game? No, that's a stupid expectation. But there was a part of me that just feels kind of left behind, and like basically that thing I built up in my own head just will never come to fruition. And now that I've kind of just moved past that and realized, hey, you know, it's its own thing. Resident Evil 2 Remake, in its own right, I think is a masterpiece. It is so fun. I think I've replayed Resident Evil 2 the second most out of the games. 4, number 1. Remake 2, number 2. Graphically, the best looking Resident Evil thing ever outside of Village, obviously. It just, seeing the RE engine at work was just amazing. The music, in my opinion, it was another disappointing thing. I know I'm saying a lot of bad stuff. I think it's because people constantly praise this game. I've seen some other people mention some of the things I'm mentioning now, but there was a lot of classical musical cues that they kind of like just sprinkled on gently as like a reference, and I'm like, your main content shouldn't be a cute little reference or Easter egg. It should be like a big event. So yeah, this game is so fun to play. Some of the best gunplay in a third-person game, as far as like making it tense. You know, they really found a way to, you know, even though it's over the shoulder, you still have very little control over hitting things because the zombies shuffle around so aggressively. And it really makes you think about every bullet you shoot, especially when you're playing on the hardcore mode. It's so fun. You know, they kind of fucked up the story a little bit by leaving out a lot of content and classic cutscenes, like the liquor on the ceiling cutscene and different stuff. Just a lot of stylistic choices that, in my opinion, they just rubbed me the wrong way as a hardcore fan, and again, as someone that had a preconceived idea of what it should be, and I totally admit that. And funny enough, even with all that being said, it still was some of the most fun I've ever had playing a video game. And it's crazy to say that. It almost transcends the original's iconography and legend, which is saying a lot. To me, I think they're companion pieces. Resident Evil 1 Remake was a replacement for Resident Evil 1 PlayStation 1. Resident Evil 2 Remake cannot hold a candle and cannot replace Resident Evil 2, but in its own right is one of the most fun and exciting Resident Evil experiences I've ever had. It was a treat to play. I still play it every now and then, and you know, for what it's worth, I think it's one of the best Resident Evils ever made. So even though I'm still butthurt that my fantasy, you know, GameCube fixed camera 4x3, you know, pre-rendered background Resident Evil 2 remake does not exist. Resident Evil 2 remake now that does exist is awesome. So it is an S tier. Mr. X, you know, Mr. X gonna give it to you. And regardless of all the bad shit, in spite of all the complaints I have about it, its positives completely outweigh the negatives for me. So Resident Evil 2 remake is an S tier.
応援いただき本当にありがとうございます。皆さんの熱い情熱と応援のおかげで、ようやくこのリメイクプロジェクト開発決定いたしました。ありがとうございます。本当言葉の
Jesus Christ!
And then we got a not so S tier, Resident Evil 3 remake. This game, now, once I saw how much shit was cut out of Resident Evil 2 content-wise, I was like, okay, Resident Evil 3, they're going to do the same thing. They're going to kind of turn it into its own thing, just like they did with Resident Evil 2, carry over some of the stuff. I wasn't expecting them to cut out that much shit. Oh my god. Like, people, you know, act like this is the only one that cut out shit, because Resident Evil 2 did cut out a lot of iconic shit, but Resident Evil 3, it's like, good god, what were you thinking? So you got the giant worm cut out, you got the iconic Brad death scene. Granted, the Brad death scene we did get was pretty, you know, emotional, you know, well, by Resident Evil standards, you know what I'm saying, but it was pretty good. You cut out Jill going to the Racoon police department. I mean, really? That's kind of important. That's kind of a big deal. You cut out the whole clock tower, the park. I mean, geez, the list is endless. It's like, why did you even? I don't even know where to start with all of that. But the biggest thing for me really is Nemesis. Actually, design-wise, I actually wasn't upset by the design. I already accepted from Resident Evil 2. It kind of prepared me that they were going to change things aesthetically and move the story around and, you know, tweak things up. You know, I got used to Mr. X's top hat, so it's like this new, you know, piano key teeth Nemesis is fine. He's still creepy. And, you know, Jill not having the sexy tube top. I mean, she definitely is not. This version of Jill is not top tier waifu Jill like the one I fell in love with in preschool was. But still, I mean, come on, it's the same shit. You know, all that stuff I could accept, but Nemesis not being, you know, a big part of his own damn game, like, was a severely lacking presence in this remake. It's just, I don't know what happened. I mean, Mr. X was more intimidating than Nemesis in this, coming from the fact that Mr. X, you weren't sure where he was going to be. Nemesis was a scripted cutscene pretty much 70% of the time. Outside of that one little Raccoon City square, for the most part, you're just waiting for a quick time event or like a little basically circle and shoot boss battle. And yeah, the Nemesis moments in the original were still a little scripted, but running around that police department and not knowing where he was going to be really was nerve-wracking back in the day. And that's basically what Mr. X was. Mr. X in Resident Evil 2 is, I think, what all of us expected Nemesis in a remake to be whenever we envisioned it in our minds. Like, funny enough, Mr. X was never really that big of a part of Resident Evil 2, and for a lot of people wasn't even very memorable. He didn't really have a lot of time in the original game. They definitely beefed up his presence for the remake. So come Nemesis, they did the opposite. I think the developers just, you know, the B team, whoever was working on Resident Evil 3, just did not anticipate just how profound of an impact Mr. X was going to have and how good of a job they were going to do. So I think if we didn't have Mr. X for comparison, it may not even be as bad. But unfortunately, that's not the case. Nemesis in this game sucks. You know, it's cool when you're in that little Raccoon City square, But after that, and that's very, keep in mind, it's very early on in the game. After that, it's just literally like quick time events and cutscenes, and that's just heartbreaking. Your main villain, literally your main like face of this game, is just completely underdeveloped, and that to me is unacceptable. It's a fun game. Don't get me wrong. On its own right, it's a fun game, and I will definitely say, if I had to pick a part that I think is like a massive improvement from the original, it's the hospital with the hunters. That shit was scary as fuck. Granted, I played it with a 5.1 surround sound on a big ass 4K HDR screen, and I had the subwoofer all the way up, and that shit was scary. So that hunter moment was really good. I actually think the opening moment in the apartment is an improvement. And you know what? For what it's worth, the opening cutscene of the original Resident Evil 3 might be like the most epic and iconic opening cutscene of any of the Resident Evils, especially for the old school games. But having the live action opening, I thought was kind of a neat throwback to that original first game. It was super cheesy, but I kind of thought it was fun. But at the same time, going back to my complaint about Resident Evil 2, there were so many moments I just was so excited to see remade with higher graphics, from Brad's death to the Umbrella soldiers coming down on the helicopters, all that good stuff. Jill's tube top, come on. And yeah, they just dropped the ball on that. So fun game on a technical level, perfectly fine. Has some really good memorable moments, but yeah, they kind of fucked it up. So it's really powerful, especially against living things. But it just even though I think it's more fun to play again on a technical level than some of the games on this list, it's hard. Unlike Resident Evil 2, it's really hard to separate this from the original for some reason. Yeah, so that's a B tier.
I'm a member of STARS.
And now we got Resistance.
No enough
Dude,
cash.
no, I'm not even gonna talk about this shit. I gave it a chance. This is one of the most needlessly complicated online games I've ever played. It's like the concept sounds cool on paper, and honestly, the RE-verse, which doesn't exist yet and may never exist, that looks more fun than this shit, because at least that's just a straightforward shoot each other, run around, go nuts game. This one, all the planning and stuff and traps, and you would think, oh, how dynamic, what a fun concept. It's not. It just doesn't work. It's messy as shit. I played it for like a week, and it just annoyed me. This game straight up annoyed me. And while yes, again, graphically and technically, it might be better than Survivor and Gaiden, those games have more of a fun novelty. This is just reused assets, and I'm sorry, I just didn't have fun playing this. I had more fun playing fucking Resident Evil Gaiden on Game Boy Color than I did playing Resident Evil Resistance. So not enough cash, stranger. Man, maybe I'm being too hard on it, but quite frankly, there's not enough in this shit tier bottom list, so I'm putting it there. All right, here we go, the final one. What about Resident Evil VR? I haven't played it. I'm sorry. Okay, I don't want an Oculus Rift because I don't want Mark Zuckerberg to fucking look at my thoughts. Well, actually, I have a friend who owns a VR headset, and maybe she'll let me buy it and play it on there. But until that happens, this is the last one. Resident Evil Village. I remember how pissed people were when they heard that werewolves were going to be an enemy, and I remember thinking, yes, I am all about it, because I knew just like Resident Evil 7, they weren't going to have non-BOW enemies. The Baker family, they're like, oh, are these just crazy Texas Chainsaw Massacre characters? No, they turned out to be BOWs. Same thing with this. I knew that they were going to be either dog hybrid people or some kind of form of zombie that just looked dog-like, and I just thought because of the werewolves in Bloodborne, or the dog enemies in Bloodborne are so freaky looking. I was like, oh, I can't wait to see what they do in the RE engine, and I wasn't disappointed. Seeing those werewolf lichen enemies on the roofs was scary as shit. Lady D, iconic. Funny enough, Lady D might even surpass the Licker as like the most iconic Resident Evil enemy ever. That's, I mean, leave it to sex appeal to do that. I'm sorry, but the Licker is not 9 feet tall with ginormous breasts. So what can you say? It's the internet. Yeah, I love the story. I love the way it continues from Resident Evil 7. I like that it starts a lot faster than Resident Evil 7. There's not as much cutscenes to go through. The village, gorgeous, most beautiful looking Resident Evil ever. Seeing all those elements returned from the old school games, and including Resident Evil 4, but integrated into that first person style, the exploration, the 4 houses and the bosses, and just everything was so magnificent. Running through it was just so magical. And this was the first Resident Evil I played whenever I got my new LG OLED TV. And if you don't know what that means, basically it's just a really fucking god tier TV. Seeing that on the PS5, which is the first game I ever played on PS5, seeing that on the big screen, with the surround sound, all the lights off, it gave me more of what I wanted to see in Resident Evil 8. And to me, Resident Evil is going in the right direction. It's keeping, the BOW structured stories. Your biohazards are still there. You still have those iconic characters coming back, and they're looking better than ever. And it's taking elements of that old school gameplay. Conserving your ammunition and health, making those little micro decisions and puzzle solving, but applying it in a new and exciting way while still being horror and atmospheric and scary. And yes, some people say, oh, well, this seems more like an action game. I kind of disagree with that, because it's not quite as intense as, Resident Evil 6 or Resident Evil 5. Definitely a lot more gunplay, but I don't think there was a moment in this game where I really felt safe. And I played it on hardcore mode right off the bat. And I remember towards the end of the game, I had a lot of, heavy hitting weapons and a lot of ammunition. But there's that part where you're like running through caverns and all the lichens are coming down. I was just like, oh, I'm fucked. And it was just fun to blast through. By the way, I gotta say right here and now, okay, so I already outed myself. Jill Valentine and Ada Wong are like my top tier Resident Evil waifus. But if I had to pick from this game, I'm sorry. Everyone goes on and on about Lady D, but it's really about that Lady B, all right? Donna Benevento is an absolute goddess. Oh my god. When I walked into her house and I looked up at that portrait, I was like, damn. I'm sorry, I think she's way cuter and way hotter than Lady D. And I know she's got like a fucked up eye, but you know what? She's got like the fucking thing on. It's fine, dude. It's fine. Okay. Lady B is waifu all the way. I just had to get that out of the way. Rip Ethan Winters. Of course, you can't forget Dad Bod Chris. He's great. I really love that opening scene. It was really intense. And if y'all ever get the chance, you have to watch the behind the scenes motion capture for Resident Evil 8. The part where Chris walks in and shoots Mia is the funniest shit I have ever seen. I don't know the name of the actor who plays Ethan, but he does this thing where he's like crouching down, like looking at all the characters, and he has like the weirdest shit-eating grin on his face while everyone else is so serious. It is the funniest shit I have ever seen.
FBI, open up!
I don't know why it's so good, but man, that's some good shit. Anyways, I went on a long tangent. So Resident Evil 8, great game. I think Resident Evil is in good hands. I think it's going in a great direction. Would I like to see more fixed camera, classic shit? Of course, duh. Do I expect them to make it? No. Just because of Lady D, and because of the new merchant, and because of all the characters in the world, the story. Oh shit! Am I about to put this in S tier? Oh. I'm not sure if I'm that brave. I almost thought about putting this in S tier, but There's still a few problems I have with it. I think this is gonna very comfortably sit in A tier. I'll buy it at a high price, and I did buy it at a high price because I bought the fucking stupid collector's edition that came with the dad bod Chris figure. I wanted it. I had to have it.
Sorry, Ethan.
And you know what? Sitting comfortably next to 7, I think that's a decent place. So yeah, that's it. That's my tier list. Again, did not play Resident Evil 4 VR. I'll get a chance to eventually once I get a Zuckerberg suit. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with this list. I think I'd be willing to make more videos if anyone's interested. Hi, Grandma, and whoever else is watching. Well, this was fun. I think I'm pretty okay with this list. There's a few I could probably move up or down, you know, one, but for the most part, I think this pretty much expresses how I feel about this series. And it, like I said, it is my favorite video game series ever. I'm super excited to see where they go with 9. And I really, honestly, I really hope that they remake Code Veronica. That game does deserve a remake, and it'd be kind of cool to see it in that style. God knows, Resident Evil 4 is on its way. And honestly, I think having the Resident Evil 2 remake gameplay style mixed with the story and world of Resident Evil 4, I think that'll be a really cool thing to see. But yeah, so I'm pretty happy with this list. Cautiously optimistic about the movie coming out. I think it'll be fun to watch. Probably not gonna be a really good movie. Oh. But until next time, thank you for watching, and come back anytime.
I'll penetrate just about anything, stranger.
Fill me in.
Stranger, it's not just about shooting. It's about come time. You'll know what I'm talking about. Rapid fire capability. Although, it uses up ammo rather quickly.
That should keep me company.
I'll come.
Hey, take it easy.
Come. Stranger, stranger. Now that's come time. Thank you.
Thanks.
Is that all, stranger?
You know, you're kind of cute. Give me your number when I get back.
What you need that for?
Story of my life.